Hi there, it's me, Stephen Thomas, with Reports on Housing. I'm coming to you on Friday, July 18th, with another housing debrief. Thank you for joining us. This is what I do. This is all I do. I'm a housing analyst with a quantitative economics and decision sciences degree. We're all about bringing the straight facts, the real hard data, the real trends, so that you can make proper adult decisions. I'm all about setting expectations. So we are in the expectation setting business. We're not here to try to drive home a narrative. We're here to tell you what's going on in the data, where it's been, where we're at right now, and where we're going into the future. And it's much different than what we're not here pounding the drum of negativity. That's not what it's about. When there are negative things for us to present, we will present them, but we're not going to push the same narrative down everybody's throats. And on the contrary, we're going to give you everything that's going on in the marketplace. That's what we do. So just keep that in mind. Like this channel. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. We're going to continue to bring this to you. I have been following the housing market since 1991, and a lot of people say that I talk this way because I represent buyers and sellers, and that's actually not true. I'm about setting expectations. And if you've been following me for years, we actually started doing these YouTube housing debriefs. Our first season was during COVID, and we talked about the housing market. We actually talked about the lack of homeowners coming on, and we talked about where the market was headed based upon very low demand at first, but also very few homes coming on the market and a very depleted inventory. And we also saw demand starting to rise incredibly fast because we were hitting record low interest rates. So we will bring you the facts. And this week we're going to focus on, are home cancellations really on the rise? And the answer to that simply is yes. But let's get into the nitty-gritty details. And I'm going to give you some of the markets that we follow and we have housing reports for. We follow the United States. But as far as cancellation rates are concerned, the data is typically a bit dated. Our data is really on top of things, and we crunch it and we actually smooth it out over time, and it's up to the prior month. So this is all the way through the month of June and where we're at right now. As far as our active inventory is concerned, that's through where we are at right now currently, and with the latest reports as well. So you can actually see this dip in inventory, and the inventory has continued to rise, and this is as of through Thursday, July 17th. So we're giving you real-time data. But this is the active inventory. It's really elevated across Southern California. It is right at where it was prior to the pandemic, the 3-year average, 2017, 18, and 19. And so there are a lot more homes on the market. As a matter of fact, the story goes like this, so you understand why I have to give you the backstory for why we have so many cancellations. That blue line is 2023, and that is right after 2022, going from 3.25% to 7.37% interest rates at the end of the year. So January of 2022, we went from 3.25%, went all the way up till October, 7.37%, and that was quite a jump. As a result, many people are saying date the rate, marry the house, and it turned out a lot of homeowners waited, and they said we're just going to wait for rates to come down. Not a lot of homeowners played, as well as a lot of homeowners were looking at it financially. It didn't make a lot of sense for them to sell their house, their low interest rate that's fixed, and trade it in for a fixed rate that could be more than double. So as a result, in 2023, very few homes came on the market. As a matter of fact, you can actually see that's that blue line. We actually had inventory levels continuing to drop all the way until they bottomed out in April. That is not normal. Normally they start to rise in February and sometimes as early as January, which is what happened this year. So very few homes coming on the market, and there was very little demand. that very little demand was because of unaffordability and high rates that have been hovering around 7% ever since. As a matter of fact, demand readings haven't changed. 2023 looks a lot like 2024, which looks a lot like 2025. So demand levels aren't changing, but the number of homeowners that participated in 2023 was very, very slim. Then more homes came on the market, still not as many as what normally come on the market prior to the pandemic, is when things were normal that we can draw from. And that's the purple line. We actually had more homes coming on the market, same amount of pending sales activity. So you had a rise in inventory in 2024, the purple line. The red line is this year, 2025. And what you're seeing is you're seeing inventories rise a lot faster than they did last year and weren't falling at the beginning of the year like they did in 2023. They were accumulating really fast, and they accumulated at a fast rate where it's getting to the point right now where it's kind of tapping out in its accumulation. It's not going to accumulate much higher than where it is presently at. It is starting to rise again, which it does at the end of July and into August, but it looks like it's actually hitting a ceiling and will be peaking. Many markets they peak between July and August, others between August and September. And what's happened more recently is that peaks have come later because we got these even higher interest rates at the end of the year in October of 2023, 2024. And also October of 2022. So you actually saw these late peaks. And these late peaks, when that happens, what it does is it makes it so that the inventory levels, they rise. And then they rise to a level where it's a lot higher at the end of the year, and then it comes down at the very, very end of the year. So that's what we can expect. We can expect more of what we had, probably have a little bit earlier of peak because we are hitting such high levels. And so this leads us to the number of cancellations. In Southern California, we have, as far as the number of cancellations are concerned, it's right now at it's really elevated. It is at a very high level. You can see here that 20% of the active inventory actually has been turning over right now. And that is because of the fact that people are just getting tired of being on the market. They aren't being successful, so they're pulling their homes off the market. It's either expiring or it's being canceled or withdrawn. There's different ways of doing it, but people are just saying, I'm tired of doing it. So check, please, tap, 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 we're gone. And so what we're seeing is that right now, about 20% there are more homes coming on the market, but the churn is pretty large where there's a larger number of homes than typical that are pulling their homes off the market right now. So you could see the elevated boost, the elevated rise, and that's throughout Southern California. Now, Bay Area has the same thing. Now, Bay Area, it almost looks like it went up a little bit from here. This is actually done every other week. So we do this. This is the July 17th that we pull the numbers for Southern California. We pull the numbers for the Bay Area next week. So, but we do the in-between weeks, and what we've seen is it came up a little bit. That might have proved to be a peak at the very, very start of July. And now it looks like we'll have to wait and see. But you can see there's still a lot of homes on the market. There are, this is all homes throughout all of the Bay Area. And the Bay Area, we actually utilized 9 different counties, and you could see that it's hit 12,000 and is starting to come down a little bit. So there's 12,000 there. Now, this is the cancellation rate. It's the highest cancellation rate that we've seen in a very long time. And it looks very similar to that yellow line. That's when rates were rising rapidly. But you can see that it's exceeded the yellow line, and it's actually, this is for the month of June. And if you draw a line down to where June was in 2022, it was far lower than where we are currently right now in the number of homes being pulled off the market. 20% of the market has been pulled off. Then we have Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, Clark County, you could see that it has been continuing to rise as far as the inventory is concerned. It is going to probably come pretty close to the 2022 peak and maybe just exceed it slightly, but not much more than that. It will come down for the rest of the year. And right now, the numbers that are coming off, it too is 20%. This is kind of a coincidence that 20% seems to be 1 out of 5. So it's 20% is a big chunk of the market that is coming off the market on a monthly basis. And there are new homes coming on the market. But you can imagine at the beginning of the year, we had a lot of homes coming on the market, very few homes being pulled off. Now there are a lot more homes being pulled off the market, and yet we have a replacement amount of inventory. But if you have more homes coming off the market, it's making it very hard for the inventory to continue to rapidly climb like it did earlier in the year. And then you have Maricopa County, this is Phoenix, and it's coming down actually right now, and it's coming down quite a bit from where it was. Part of this is seasonal, but another part of this, because it actually had one of the largest drops of the year within the last couple of weeks, and that has a lot to do with a very few with homeowners pulling their homes off the market, but also actually for Phoenix, they have homes being pulled off the market. They only have 15% of the market actually pulled their homes off the market, but you can see it's much more elevated than it was in 2022, and it's continuing to climb higher, and this is for the month of June. So it's not quite like the other markets, but Maricopa, Phoenix is doing something different than all the other markets. All the other markets are doing something kind of similar, but I want to show you this. This is the number of homes coming on the market on a monthly basis. That blue line is 2023. You can see very few homes coming on the market. The purple line was last year, and the red line I'm pointing to is this year. And you can see there were far more homes coming on the market than last year and way more than the blue line. So the red line exceeded the purple line, and it really exceeded the blue line. And you can see what's happened. They've all squeezed together right now. At the end, you can see the red line. It's identical to where it was last year. So where there were a lot more homes coming on the market, now not quite as many. How come? And especially in Phoenix. Phoenix is ground zero for getting probably some of the worst headlines where everything's a disaster in Phoenix. What it tells you is that a lot of these people that are coming on the market aren't necessarily in pickles. They're not in a predicament where they have to sell. Those exist in all markets, and it exists in the best of markets. We still get people that have to sell. But cumulatively, for the majority of everybody on the market, they really don't have to sell. So they're inclined to pull their homes off the market when they don't have to, or in this case, not even place their homes on the market when they hear how negative it is in Maricopa County. And it's not even as negative as what everybody makes it out to be. It's, if you want negative places, there are some negative headlines in Florida and some along the Sun Belt, but that does not really include Phoenix. Phoenix is not as negative as what everybody has imagined it to be, the narrative that is behind that story. And so these are what happens when you read all those headlines. A lot of homeowners don't really have to sell, so they're not, and it's matching the number of homes coming on the market as last year when it was exceeding it. So that's an important note for them. Now, as far as the number, so what you're seeing is that the overall story is that inventory levels are going to have a hard time rising from here. And the reason for that is because fewer homes start coming on the market as we get further on in the year, A, and B, a lot of people that weren't successful are getting to the point where they're saying, forget it, sayonara. And and if you're wondering about the number of canceled pending sales, there were a lot of headlines, and basically that's a lot of clickbait. And yet we are getting a lot of cancellations, but a lot of those are being placed back into pending status. So we actually take a look at the total number of pendings that are on the market. And we do a 30-day snapshot of pendings, and then we take a look at that same 30 days. Well, there's a lot of them that actually fall out and come back in. So when we're looking at it, you can see this is Southern California. It is very, very similar to the last 2 years. And this is what I was telling you. So if we were having a giant cancellation rate and we weren't placing them right back into pending status, these numbers would drop. This is a reflection of buyer demand writing contracts and going into pending sale status. And you could see that it remains elevated. It remains it remains at these very low levels. And it matches last year and the year before, and isn't really changing much. We did change a little bit. You could see this in Southern California where the red dipped down. That was the impact impact of the economic uncertainty and the negative sentiment surrounding tariffs actually hit the housing markets. But by and large, you're not seeing this major drop in demand. You're not seeing it in Southern California. You're not seeing it in the Bay Area. You're not seeing it in Clark County. You are seeing a little bit. It's down a little bit compared to where we were the last couple of years. The last couple of years were a bit more robust selling Clark County. Clark County also Vegas gets a little bit of the negative headlines also. That's where a lot of reporting from outside of Vegas and outside of Phoenix across the United States, they like to tap into and write headlines about Las Vegas, Bay Area, Phoenix. And Bay Area hasn't been that negative, so let's pick on Vegas, let's pick on Phoenix, let's pick on Florida. So, but demand is down slightly year over year. And in Phoenix, you could see right in line with the last couple of years and sitting right on last year's line. So not a big change in demand in our demand readings that last 30 days of pending sales activity. So the overall, what you're hearing is that a lot of homeowners are just staying put. And after being on the market for a super, and it continues to be the case where there are fewer homeowners that are placing their homes on the market, and it's starting to squeeze. I showed you for Phoenix that it's right on top of last year's line. It's squeezing in all markets, but not as much as Phoenix. But so a lot of homeowners are going, I really don't need to go anywhere. I heard the market's a lot slower. I'll wait it out until the market heats up. Let's just wait. And then you're getting a lot of other homeowners that have been on the market as sellers and have been unsuccessful in selling. So they have not been able to achieve their goal of selling. So ultimately, they're just throwing in the towel. They're either throwing in the towel and saying, hey, maybe I'll relist down the road with my agent or maybe some other agent, or I'm going to wait until next spring, or they just put things on hold. And that's where things are at right now. So, and we're going to see this continue. We're going to see an elevation in the number of homes that come off the market as the year progresses. Demand continues to slightly fall over time. And then at the very end of the year, you're going to see demand come down. You're going to see inventory levels come down, and you're going to see the number of homes that are pulled off the market elevate at the very end of the year, and definitely into January for those people that then missed the whole entire year and were unsuccessful. So that's where we're at. If you like what you've seen and you want more information, go to reportsonhousing.com. The most recent one that came out is called Mid-Year Outlook. We have another report that's coming out this week along the coast in Orange County, San Diego, Los Angeles, and Ventura counties. And in the rest of the markets, Phoenix, Vegas, Bay Area, San Bernardino, Riverside will all get theirs the following week, but we will be writing a new report. And if you subscribe to one of our reports, utilize the coupon code, can't even say it, the coupon code TOWEL for a free month. So thank you so much for joining us for another housing debrief. I'm Stephen Thomas with Reports on Housing. I hope you have a fantastic finish to your week, and we will see you on the other side.